Hi everyone, it's Matt from Toppy Tarot. Welcome back to another 10 Talk Tuesday. Okay, so I'm back. Look around me, there's nothing in the room today, so there is a reason for that. I am moving house, but I'm going to do a full video on that a little bit later in the month, or maybe even like the 1st of September, 2nd of September. Anyway, back to today's video. I want to ask you, do indie decks feature higher than sort of mass market production decks? Do you think they are better, or do they read better, or do you find indie decks better in some way than mass market decks? Me, personally, I find no difference. I think a lot of people put stock in an indie deck in that they usually tend to be, how can I say, drawn differently, or the quality of the paper might be better, the box might be a little fancier, you might get one or two little extra things with the deck. Those sort of things, I get it, I understand. But from me, although those are really exciting things, especially if you get like a little extra, like a little card, or the deck comes in a little bag, or a little monogram, something. Apart from those things, personally, I don't believe that, I haven't found in my experience that those indie decks read any better or any different to a mass market produced deck. Now, what do I mean by mass market produced? Most of you know, an indie deck would be like a first edition of a book, a nice first edition hardcover of a book. So you would get someone who creates a deck. They will then have a special first edition run of that, a print run of that deck, so that it will come on very different cards, like very fancy card, excellent quality. The box design might be very specific. As I say, it might come with some little extras, like a little velvet bag that you can put your cards in and then put it in the box. It might come with a little crystal. It might come with a color instruction booklet. That would be your indie deck. Your indie deck would be that. And then what they would do, if that does really well, like if it's very popular and there's a huge demand for that, what that creator would normally do is they would approach a publishing house such as Hay House, US Game Systems, what's the other famous one? You know, that one that has the book with 700 different languages in it. They'd approach those people, and those people would say, okay, we'll mass market print this. So that would be like on slightly less fancy paper. There wouldn't be any extras. They wouldn't put it into a fancy box. They put it in a tuck box. They might even reduce the size of the cards. They might change the color, might not be as brilliant as on the indie deck, the actual original deck. And of course, then it would cost cheaper. Okay, it won't cost cheaper, it will cost less money. It won't be as expensive as the original. Okay, so it would kind of be the equivalent of the paperback novel, okay, the paperback of the original hardcover, original print. Now, look, I don't have a problem with this. I mean, most of my decks, I don't have a lot of indie decks. Indie decks can also be decks that are designed specifically as a once-off. So you would get someone who would be very creative and they'd say, okay, I'm going to create a deck, okay, and they would do a deck and they would print 500 copies and that would be it. It would be an indie deck. It wouldn't be a mass-produced thing. Okay. Now, I love the idea of an indie deck. Indie decks are very expensive. I have not come across an indie deck that is cheap or that is easily affordable. Okay, where you don't have to save up any money. Mass-produced decks are expensive in their own right. I don't have many mass-produced decks that are like really cheap. There are one or two, but not many. You guys know, you've seen my video on my deck collection, and you can see that I don't have many El Cheapos. So just buying a normal mass-produced deck is expensive enough. Now you've got to think, okay, now I'm going to have to spend almost double, sometimes more than double, that you would spend on the mass-produced deck. I now have to spend on the actual original indie deck. I don't have that kind of money. I do, however, have 3 indie decks. I unfortunately, because I've packed up, I've actually packed them away already in a box, ready to move. But I have 3 indie decks and they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, they're absolutely gorgeous. But they cost a lot of money. I was very, very blessed to actually be gifted one for my birthday 3 years ago. And I bought the other 2 and they were hella expensive. I think maybe also because in South Africa we don't have any deck creators, we don't have that sort of thing, so all the decks that we get are imported. I wish we did have people who were fantastic and who had the money and who were just so creative and that to actually produce decks in South Africa. I don't know of any decks that have been produced and printed here. So our decks are imported, and to import, generally we buy online, and it would be the mass market edition. We would then have to import it, all those costs, all those taxes, all the import taxes and import duties and things. If I wanted to buy an indie deck, I would have to go directly to the creator, okay, the deck creator. And I would then have to send off a request via email or via a form or whatever. I have to send it over to overseas, wherever. They have to then fill the order, post it back to me. It could take ages. Also what happens, and I'm going to give you a little story, the South African Post Office is shocking, absolutely shocking. I'll give you a little example. About 3 months ago, I ordered a book off Amazon, and I was very fortunate that my fiance's sister lives in America and she got the thing. I had to open a PayPal account. It was a bit of a mission. So she ordered the book on Amazon for me, and they then posted it because I couldn't order. There was some mess up with the order or something. I couldn't order from South Africa on that Amazon thing. Anyway, they then got the book. It was a second-hand copy because it was an OOP, out of print, for those who don't know what OOP is. Anyway, this book was put in a bag and posted. I checked where the book was last week, and apparently it's stationary. It has been stationary for 4 weeks, which means that the post office here in South Africa has either lost it or it's been stolen. And I paid a lot of money for that book, for that second-hand book, because it was an out of print. And it was the only book I needed to complete my entire James Herbert collection. So I am pissed, okay? But that is why I would never order a very, very expensive indie deck, which would have to be posted via our post office. The person overseas could perhaps send it via registered mail, express delivery, UPS, DHL, FedEx, whatever. But then it's going to cost them so much more money. And with an indie deck, you're paying a lot of money anyway. Generally, they have to be posted. If you're outside of that country, they've got to be posted. The person who's created the deck and who's posting the deck, she has to add that onto the actual selling price. And so it tends to skyrocket. And you know what? For a deck that, in my opinion, doesn't have that much difference, it doesn't make that much difference when you are reading for people, I don't see that it's that important. I'm sorry if you are a deck creator and you are creating stuff and I'm kind of saying it doesn't make a difference. Please, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with your decks, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having an indie deck. Indie decks are fantastic. I just wish I could afford them, and I wish I could guarantee that I would get them if I ordered one. And I think that's quite important. I think, if indie decks were cheaper, perhaps I would then take a chance and order them. What do you think? Have you got any indie decks? What indie decks do you have? Do they make a difference when you're doing your readings? Comment down below. While you're down there, go check out my Instagram, okay? Link in the bio. I'll see you guys next week for some more 10 Talk Tuesday.